What's up, guys? So, we finally have some confirmation about some of the big questions that people have been asking. Um, and we also got one video that was dropped so far of some gameplay footage at Talladega. So, I'm going to get to that, but first, I want to just get past the lingering questions that people have had regarding private lobbies, wheel support, and custom setups. So, many of you are going to be disappointed because, as we see here, private lobbies are not in the game. This was a response from NASCAR Ignition. Okay. Private lobbies have been a staple of previous NASCAR video games, and we hear the ardent support for them to be brought back for NASCAR 21 Ignition. We are currently prioritizing work involving the party feature. That said, we are working hard to implement them in the coming game. That is a little bit confusing to me. It's not in the game that's coming, but they're currently prioritizing the party feature. I don't know what that's going to be like. What they described before as some hopper for this. I mean, I'm not really sure how any of that's going to work. Um, I think this is going to come back to bite them if they don't address this, especially from people who are looking forward to online racing. Um, but they're saying they're working hard to implement them in the coming game. Does that mean NASCAR 21 Ignition or the following game, the one they're working on as we speak, that's supposed to come out in 2022? This is a little bit confusing. It does seem like they're talking about they're trying to get it into the game, maybe as a patch afterwards. So it's not in the game as we speak. I don't know how hard could that be to get that in there. It doesn't sound like something that should be so really hard, but then again, who knows? But as the game is built at the moment, it's not in it. Maybe they'll get it in through a patch post release. Who knows? So I'm gonna hold on a second. We're gonna take a couple of just to see what people's responses. Thanks, but dang, how is this even a possibility in 2021? Inexcusable for any game that has multiplayer to not have private lobbies. I agree. How we're gonna do a league? I don't know, man. I don't. I love how they point out it has been a staple in games forever. Yet they didn't think to have it as part of the game until people complained. I agree. I gotta like that. This game sounds so bare bones. I'm not really shocked about that part. It's a requirement by NASCAR that there's a NASCAR game release every year. Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about this yearly business model that I've talked about in the past. This is a big reason right here, um, why we always have these issues every year. Okay, because they started from scratch. Plenty of games that started from scratch and weren't able to get basic features in. Don't release the game if it's not ready. I agree, but once again, game has to be released every year. This yearly business model is a big problem, and it's not going away. All right, so negative reaction, and I'm not surprised. So let's go to the next thing that was confirmed. Wheel support. I honestly was not worried about this. I thought people were getting a little bit crazy, starting to question wheel support, but that's what happens when you wait so long to discuss details. Wheel support is available via Logitech, Thrustmaster, and Fanatec products. It's very vague, but it sounds to me like it supports all of these products. And here is another big one. Custom setups not in the game confirmed. We've been working closely with NASCAR to have optimal baseline setups. In the future, we'll have more advanced options. So, this confirms pretty much what I've talked about. I said that, they're going to have custom setups in the future and that it looks like they are going to stick with this baseline stuff just for the first game. They said they're working with NASCAR to have optimal baseline setups. How involved is NASCAR when it comes to setups in the game? I'm really curious about that. I'm not sure they're going to ever get into real big details about it, but I guess if they supply them with good baseline setups, that plus the ability to, you know, uh, make changes in inside the race for the first game, I don't think it's the end of the world, but it is something that you do got to scratch your head. And most every other game had it. I really just hope that with the next game that they really focus on all these details, making sure that it's in there, and that with the next gen car everything works as it should. So yeah, we finally have confirmation of these questions that people have been having. This really bothers me that we have to find this stuff out because people are I mean, somebody did send me a message in my one of my last videos letting me know that this was already confirmed. That then I came looking for it. This is where I found it. I am so sick and tired of having to play um like Indiana Jones looking for some lost treasure, finding information. These guys really do need to focus on having a centralized place where people can all in the community can all gather to discuss these games and actually get information and communicate with the developer. This is not good. Um, Having to find stuff on Twitter and Reddit, and it's like somebody must have asked and somebody finally gave an answer, and still I went on Twitter and I actually looked and I couldn't find this. I found it here on Reddit. So, and this was posted 6 hours ago. Yeah, this isn't the way we should be finding information. Motorsport Games really needs to consider having a good old fashioned forum. Forums work, they're simple. People can join a forum and then you can divide it into different sections for different games. You can have a NASCAR ignition section or a NASCAR section, and then you could have your uh, BTCC game whenever that comes out, and all your games you could have them in different sections. You could have you know places for people to gather in the community. Uh, I really hate this. I'm never the first to find information. I always got to find out because people give me a heads up. So I'm grateful to you guys for keeping me updated, and it sucks that we got to do it this way, but it is what it is. So far, all we got is one person who posted a video at Talladega. I'm actually surprised. I mean, I was expecting several people to drop, footage. And I'm sure that maybe tomorrow or the day after, more videos will drop. I mean, I would be shocked if they didn't, but still, it's Sunday and all we got is this one video. So I'm going to move into this and hold on a second. All right, here's the, let's see. All right. All right. I'm going to turn the sound down because it's just background music. I hate that's something else that bothers me. When they set this up, one, could you guys put a tent over this stuff so that the glare of the sun and the daylight doesn't ruin the picture? Also, all this loud music in the background, I get it. I've been to 1,000 NASCAR races. It is what it is. It's pretty hard to not have that. But still, we haven't heard anything in this game of when it comes to sound, and sound is very important. I don't know what the spotter sounds like. I don't know what the car sounds like. I don't know what any of the presentation, the accompanying sounds and that come with the presentation. We don't know anything about the sound in the game, so that is concerning to me. So let's get into this. So this is a demo. Obviously, they have it set at an easy setting with uh, all the oh my god, anyway, with all the settings, set for people that don't aren't used to playing this stuff, just casual people who can come and try the game out. I understand why they're not going to have all the options set to like expert or anything like that. I get it. So I'm not going to go crazy about it. But I'm going to talk a little more after this is over. But let's look at this. This is the beginning. As you could see, they're kind of in formation, and it starts you already at, I guess 100 something miles an hour. You could see the player has the car out of the groove, so he's starting to fall back. I get it. You got that's what I would expect. Got into the car a little bit. Like I said, the settings are probably where you're not going to get the full effect of having everything on expert. Now, here's something that kind of I'm a little concerned about. The cars are all over the place. They're not in formation. So it's allowing the player to catch up and get, into the pack and able to make these moves. It's a little bit questionable. These cars should be in two rows. As far as the arrow, it does seem to be responding properly. He's outside by himself and he's falling back a little. Now he gets behind this car, he gets a little bit of a suck up. All right, so then it inexplicably cuts. Now they're showing us different angles. You know something? I haven't people learned how to record by now? This is awful. And I'm not attacking anybody. I'm grateful for the footage, but man, it's like they purposely. How can we make this video look as bad as possible? Hold the camera upright instead of sideways. Don't show the whole screen. Make sure that the camera's shaking all over the place. This is terrible. So I don't really know what to get from this. Now we're going to see in a moment something else that I'm a little concerned about. This looks great. I actually like the cockpit cam. Now you could see he got into the left quarter panel and he's starting to turn. That's either the 3 or the 43. Anyway, yeah. You could see over here he was going to spin completely out, but then you could see the car in the middle gets into his front left quarter panel. So I guess it kind of, everything moves so quick. So plus the guy kept messing with the camera. But the thing that concerns me here, okay, physics. I don't know what to say because unless you're actually playing, it's hard to tell what the physics are like. I don't see anything that's cause for concern yet. I'm more concerned about the AI. And right here, as you could see, sideways. Where's the smoke? There should be some tire smoke. Whenever you see any cars go that, sideways, about to spin out, you see tire smoke. None. So that's a detail that I don't know what's going on there. I'd like to know more. And yeah, you could see these cars are. This isn't your traditional pack racing, what I expect to see. Again, it might have to do with the settings, but still, I'm a little concerned. And this is just a 4-lap demo. So I'm not really sure what to think, right? There's some good stuff here, but there's also things to be concerned about. So there you go. Now, what I'm gonna what I want to mention is I'm glad they finally confirmed some of these questions people had, but they took too long to do it. You're going to have people now that are like, why are these people so secretive? They finally admitted there's no custom setups. They could have done that from the start. They should have done that from the start. My advice was you got to treat it like a band aid, rip it off, don't mess around. The sooner you tell people, they can move on. And now they could focus on the things that are in the game. But instead, you shoot yourself in the foot by kind of dragging your feet. And even now that they confirmed it, this is not the way to do it. I mean, this is just some random post. And only people that actively go looking in Reddit or Twitter are going to find this stuff. And I hate that. But we finally know maybe they'll add private lobbies. It seems like that's something they're scrambling to get in the game. I don't know. Now, they did say last week, I believe, sometime that they were going to reveal more details about the game. Where's the information? I mean, I don't expect these guys to reveal everything. I don't expect these guys to like give us every single detail of the game. But there are things they need to address and talk about. And this is not a story driven game. This is a sports title, a yearly sports title. We know for the most part what this game is about. And for us, what we're concerned with as a community is gameplay and the details, the smaller details, things like private lobbies and custom setups. There's no reason to keep this stuff secret. And if it's not in the game, you need to be upfront about it. And this is the type of thing that makes people apprehensive about trusting you as a developer. I do think that these guys, I do think they're trying. I do think they care about the product. And I do think that they want to put their best product forward. Okay? But here's the truth. And as I mentioned earlier, and somebody else brought it up, I've talked about this before. This is part of that yearly sports title, yearly release business model. This isn't like other games that it comes out and then maybe 2 or 3 years down the line there's a sequel and there's a franchise. This is every year these games have to come out. Okay, that's the way the business model is centered. On top of that, with motorsport games, you have shareholders. These people don't care. They care about is making sure that those quarterly statements match the projected earnings. And the projected earnings are all based on speculation about the upcoming game. And because this is a yearly business model, they already know every year, more or less, when the game is supposed to release. So those shareholders are waiting to hear about the game and the release and maybe some details, and they're watching to see that stock. And that speculation and those projected earnings are what drive the stock up or down. That's all they care about. So, motorsport games is going to be fixated with appeasing the shareholders. They want the shareholders to feel confident. This game's coming out by this date, and we're working on this other game, and that game's going to come out next year, and we're going to try to push it out earlier and stuff like that. That's what the shareholders want to know. And people like me want to know that as well. But the problem is that we're always going to get games that are missing something. They're always going to lag behind in certain areas. So I'm not shocked by a lot of this. I just wish they handled it better. And if you're noticing frustration, it's not about really the news. The custom setup thing for the first game, I can live with that. If those setups, right? Let's see. They've been working closely with NASCAR to have optimal baseline setups. Hey, it can work if they do it right. If they don't do it right and it doesn't work, that's going to be disastrous for the game. So that's on them. But this isn't necessarily the end of the world. You're going to have five options. And if they do a good enough job of differentiating all five setups for every single track and every single, style of racing and every race package, you can find something that works and then in game, adjust it. In iRacing, we do have fixed setups where you can't tinker with the setups. This is not the end of the world for the first game, right? This is definitely something that can't go on into the next game. But for the first game, I'm okay with it. But I can understand why other people may be upset. But they should have come out with this right away. And if you tell people right off the bat, then they'll adjust, they'll have some time to just accept it and then move on and focus on other things, like things that we know are in the game. Maybe focus on the things we know we're getting. But this is a big mistake by Motorsport Games handling it this way. So that's why I tell these guys, be honest with your consumer base. Let them know right off the bat what the deal is. And look at what happened with the truck and Xfinity. We knew right away it wasn't part of the game. And guess what? People moved on. Nobody's talking about that anymore. Nobody cares. They're moved on. They've accepted the idea, and it makes sense that hey, we want to focus on the Cup Series and making sure that we push forward the best possible game that's centered on the Cup Series, and then down the line, when it's appropriate, we can add that other stuff, and the game it doesn't feel like it's missing something. Like we went through all these heat games and they gave us all these series and they gave us a dirt series, but we were always wondering why we're still waiting for things like, a paint booth and other things. So they did it different. I agree with most of what they've done, but I would have made sure that you had private lobbies. That for me is a problem. Um, I understand why it's a problem for other people. I'm not an online guy, but even I know that's I don't know, man. You're gonna have to explain to people what are they gonna do? People that want to run a league or something. I don't know. They said they're gonna reveal more details and information about the game, but we're almost 3 weeks away from the release date. They're really cutting it close, and every day that goes by and they're not really giving us information, now people are like, look, now we finally found out there's no setups, there's no this, there's no that. What else are they hiding? This is why you have to be out front. You always get in front of the negative news. Okay? I'm not a professional public relations guy or anything like that, but I've followed politics all my life, and it's really not much different. And this is, in a way, this is kind of like politics. And if you get out in front of the story, you control the narrative. And if you come out and say, hey, this isn't in the game, we felt that focusing on five presets, we work closely with NASCAR to make sure that you're going to have good options there and that we're ready for the next game. We're going to have custom setups going forward, but for the first game, we just couldn't implement it for whatever reason. And you're upfront with your consumer base, and guess what? I promise you, most of them, not all of them, some people are going to be upset no matter what, but most people are going to just say, okay, I'm glad I know, um, I could live with it, and let's move forward. Let's focus on what's there. Give us more details. But you can't do this. You can't drag your feet. And then even now, I had to dig for this. Somebody went in my comment section and told me, hey, they finally confirmed it on Twitter. So then I started looking. This is how I found it. I don't know why set up a fucking forum. How is that really time consuming, or is it going to cost you anything to start a forum? Forums are simple. They've been around as long as the internet, and they still work. They're easy to navigate, and you can have a place where whenever you want to drop information, you can do it there instead of people going to Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, YouTube, and then just all over the place like a scavenger hunt. That's my 2 cents on that. But this yearly business model means we're going to be dealing with stuff like this every year. That's just the way it is. It's not going to change. They're not going to just start saying we're going to release the game every 2 or 3 years because we want to make sure it's got everything. They're not going to do that. That's just the way it is. All right. I don't know what else to say. I'm concerned about something else. For the last couple of the Heat games, right? 704 at least made sure to release early copies to specific people like Real Radman and Jeff Fabiano. And we as a community got to watch them play the game, show us things, give us their thoughts. I haven't heard anything about motorsport games doing something like that. Now, a lot of the marketing they kind of followed with the developer diaries, things like that. And in my opinion, they've done a decent job with that stuff. In fact, the third developer diary to me was a huge success. I walked away from that super excited, as was most of the community. And this is the other thing that really bothers me. It feels like they caught a rare 80-pound fish and they got it on the hook and they're reeling it in. And it's like, man, this is a rare fish. And instead of reeling it in and just pulling it on the boat, they took it off the hook and threw it back in the water. Just, there's probably a better fish out there. And you had everybody on the hook. You had me on the hook. I was super excited. And I'm not saying I'm not excited anymore. I'm still excited for this game, but it since the third diary dropped to now, with these guys not really revealing much of anything and finally answering this stuff this way, it's hard, not to lose some of that enthusiasm. You just threw that rare 80 pounder, whatever's a, rare fish out there, threw it back in the water. And it's like, that's such a waste of marketing that you actually did a good job with that third diary. And it made people want to know more about the game. And now we're sitting around. They said they're going to reveal more information. What are they waiting for? I mean, we're less than a month out from the release of the game. And if you don't reveal, I'm not saying they have to reveal everything. They're not going to tell us everything, but you got to reveal something. And in my opinion, we want to see some gameplay. What we've seen at Daytona Talladega, this stuff, is really not enough. This is very limited. These demos have all these assists on. That's the word I couldn't remember a little while ago. I'm getting old, guys. It happens. I know it's, a little, I'm still a little young for Alzheimer's, but I couldn't remember assists. But you know what? And then there's questions here. It's like, we want to see some gameplay with all the assists off, with everything set to maximum. I want to see what this AI can do. I want to see how they race. I want to see several consecutive laps of racing at a different track. I'm fucking tired of Daytona and Talladega. I'm sick of this shit. These races are 4 times a year. This pack racing is garbage. I know people like it, but this isn't going to get me excited. I want to see some 1.5 mile tracks, maybe Dover, a mile track, or some short track, something. Extended gameplay. Let me hear this fucking game finally. I don't know what this game sounds like. Let me hear the engine sounds. I want to hear these spotters. I want to hear some of that presentation, this MRN stuff. that this television style presentation that we've heard about. When it comes to the presentation, I do understand if they want to kind of maybe not reveal too much. That I get. If there's anything in the game that I could understand that maybe they want to kind of keep to themselves and then let people discover as they play the game, is the off track stuff, the presentation. You know what? I might even myself make a decision to not reveal too much about that. I think what we saw in that third developer diary was more than enough to get me excited about the presentation. But man, we haven't seen anywhere near enough gameplay. And that AI, I'm worried about it. I want to see what happens during a green flag run, maybe a green flag pit stop. How does the AI behave? How's the pit logic? The AI is probably the hardest thing to develop in a race game, in my mind. Even iRacing, which has AI, it's not perfect. It can be very good and it could be very bad. And it's very hit and miss depending on certain tracks. I've had some really, really good racing against the AI in iRacing, but I've also had some really bad moments. The cars have the lead cars have a hard time getting around lap traffic. You don't see as much passing as you should. The cars kind of maintain certain positions. Um, And during pit stops at some tracks it's fine. It's perfectly smooth. But at other tracks, you see some crazy stuff. Cars crashing into each other before entering the pits, sometimes crashing into each other, exiting the pits. And they'll be stuck there, no flag, for like 3 or 4 laps. And they finally get away from each other. It's just like some really game breaking stuff issues, right? So just letting you guys know that iRacing is not perfect. And the AI in iRacing is far from perfect. It's very hit and miss. And in my opinion, the best AI I've experienced, and I got to give 704 credit, was NASCAR Heat 4. They, to me, that was the best AI I've ever seen in any console game. I'm not talking about NASCAR 2003, the PC simulator, all right? I'm just talking about console games. They did a really, really good job. Was it perfect? No. It had issues. But the AI did run different lines. They did, most for the most part, race decent. And it gave you a decent experience, right? There's always room for improvement, but it's not easy to program AI is my point. And we haven't seen anywhere near enough gameplay. Even in that third developer diary, the little gameplay they showed is really chopped up into these high speed cuts. And I hate that as well. So we need to see some extended gameplay. I want to see some green flag stops. I want to see what happens with the AI logic. At least have somebody talk about this AI extensively, in detail. Because I'm gonna be honest, I'm not impressed with the AI so far. I'm really concerned. And I thought by now we would be seeing a lot more footage. And we're not. So, you guys got to do something, man, because you're ruining the excitement that you built. You did a good job for the most part in getting people excited. But a lot of this other stuff is just kind of throwing water on something that you 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 did a decent job doing. And like I said, you had me excited. And now I'm just like, what's the story with the AI? What's the deal with gameplay footage? I want to see this fucking game at a high setting with no assists, with somebody who actually knows how to play, not some random guy at one of these tracks, you know, just whatever. Show us, some 3, 4, 5, 6 consecutive laps. I need to see more. This is really concerning to me. And the last thing I'm going to leave with is, like I said, are they going to reveal or release early copies for review, or for some, YouTuber like Radman or Jeff Faviano? I really enjoyed their early footage and their thoughts before NASCAR Heat 4 and 5 were released. We got to watch these guys play. They showed us stuff. They showed us the customization, whatever there was. Um, it concerns me if these guys plan on just releasing this game without releasing early copies for review or for preview. That's a concern to me because I'm going to tell you something. One thing I've learned is that whenever, not just games, you look at movies in the film industry, 90% of the time, at least, um, films are released for early screening for people who get special invitations to watch these films early. A lot of these people are movie reviewers and people in the industry. So when you get to watch movie reviews before the film actually comes out, you can tell what the movie is more or less. Is it good? Is it not? And every once in a while, you will have a movie that's not released for pre-screens, for early screening, I should say. They just release it without anybody seeing it. And everybody in the industry knows that means it's a bomb. When when a developer of a game does not release uh, uh, early copies for review, that is a bad sign. So I'm starting to get concerned because this game is not that far away. Are you going to release early copies to one of these guys, to somebody? That to me is a big red flag. So I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. These guys might come out tomorrow and reveal a bunch of details. Maybe even show us some gameplay. I don't know. So I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I'm concerned at this point. I thought by now we would see more. And man, these guys are dropping the ball because they got me excited. They got most of the community excited after that third developer diary, and nothing since then. All people have talked about is this stuff about the lobbies and the setups, the custom setups, and then even wheel support. This is what happens when you do this. People are going to start asking questions about stuff like this. So yeah, they confirmed wheel support. This is not a surprise to me. I knew this was ridiculous to even think of this, but I understand where it comes from. So, sorry for the long video, but Motorsport Games, if you're listening, you got to do a better job, man. You got to be more upfront with people. You knew damn well these were questions. And I don't blame anybody in particular. I think most of these guys are well intentioned. They're trying. There's a lot of passion behind what they're trying to do. I appreciate that. I support what they're doing. And I know, this is why I know going in, this first game is going to be a little bit on the bare bones side. We know that. But you got to get the gameplay right. And it is concerning. We're not seeing much gameplay. And what little we've seen is at Daytona and Talladega. I could give less of a fuck about those tracks and pack racing. So you got to do something more, man. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got. If there's more that comes out, I'll talk about it then. I'm really trying to be fair, man. You guys let me know if I stepped out of line at any point. Am I being unfair? I think I'm being fair. I'm trying to be fair. So let's see what the future brings. And yeah, I look forward to your comments later.